Hello, everybody. This is Noah and John, and we are with UrbanDigs. And today, Johnny, we are talking Manhattan, and this is a special treat for us. We got one of the greatest that's out there, Holly Parker, CEO of the Holly Parker team over at Compass. Johnny, we are talking about a production powerhouse.
Yeah.
Number one agent, number one agent, number one agent, number two agent, number one agent. It's just incredible. Over how much did you do? Over 10 billion with a B?
13,
Uh,
13 billion. Me
Oh,
and
so
my
you
team,
casually
13
just did
billion.
another 3 billion. You know,
Yeah.
that's not updated on the site over here. Consistently surpasses
It's a lot of
500 million a
zeros.
year.
Well, because
I, I,
yeah. Because
I don't know how you have time to even talk to us, but this is incredible. So, first off, I want to say thank you for sharing some time with us and letting our audience get a purview of what you see and what you're observing in the New York City markets. And with that, Holly, I'm going to start this out right away. Ask the first question. People want to know it is tough out there. It is tricky out there. There's higher rates out there. There's the Fair Act out there. What is going on with New York City real estate today?
well, luckily, we have a whole nother set coming in and loving us up. We got Broadway, we got food, we got Wall Street, we got tech. And we're kind of where everybody wants to be. The energy, I call New York the Tesla, where everybody comes to like plug into the energy source. And you can see it with the buyers coming in, both mostly domestic, but there's a lot of enthusiasm. They want value or they want an incredible product, but they're writing checks, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that's great. We were on our Macro Monday yesterday, and we were talking about there's a big article, I think, in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about tourism across the board in the country is generally down, except for New York, where it's actually up. It's not up a lot, but compared to some of the other cities, it's surprising. It's doing very well. And I think it touches on a lot of the things you mentioned, that New York City is this very dynamic place, and it's a place where people want to be, and we're starting to see those buyers come back. And I'm curious, Holly, when I look at the breadth of your listings, it's amazing. I mean, you've got something from 600 or so thousand up to 135 million all over the country. And I'm very curious, of these things out there, what are the things that are moving well? What's not moving well? What's being penalized?
Oh, it's an interesting question. What wasn't moving well in New York for quite some time were co-ops. Everybody wanted the shiny new condo. The difference between the two is with co-ops, you can only generally rent them out for 2 years, where condos, you can rent them out as long as you need to. So as I like to say, a condo is moving in together, a co-op is getting married. You just have to be really sure of your future when you're buying a co-op, because there's not, it's hard to do a tight turnaround there. And if a co-op needed to be renovated, that was just, a double challenge there. But we're seeing those happen now, which is really exciting because of the mentality behind it, which is I'm making an investment in New York and I'm making a long-term investment in New York. I feel good about this, which, makes me really happy to see people, throwing the anchor down in those roots and saying, you can't scare me out of here. So, um,
Yeah, you're hearing this a lot about New York City starting to get real active right now. There's a real nice energy going on here. It's something I guess we haven't felt in a while. I just want to stay on the market trends really quick with you, Holly, in Manhattan. Buyer's market, seller's market. I mean, is there any leverage advantage going on right now, or what's happening there?
I think it's a little bit of in between. I think that both have to kind of sit up straight and pay attention, right? You cannot just throw your apartment on the market anymore and not really make a huge effort with either staging or intensive cleanup. You just don't see that type of apartment too often. And if you do see it, it's just really going to have a hard time. So sellers got to make a really good effort in how they deliver a property. It also needs to be the right price. There needs to be like a feeling of value. That doesn't mean that we're not still making records here. There was a $10,000 square foot record at 150 Charles made this spring. I sold that same apartment for 42 million in 2020. It just
Wow.
sold for 60, right? $10,000
Nice.
a square foot in the West Village. So that was a market record. We had not seen that before. The building is 11 years old. It's a phenomenal building, but it's not brand new. And because you have views, because it has a location, and because it's a condo and in beautiful shape, bang, that was the new record.
That's pretty awesome. But let me go back, because we have a lot of agents out there who are representing people that are, frankly, they're in co-ops. And I know you mentioned co-ops, and I like the idea of sellers having this, sit up straight and pay attention. So if you're sort of in, especially if you're not unrenovated, but you haven't really touched it in the last 10 years or so, it's a dated co-op, let's say that. What sort of things do you need to do as a seller to sort of really understand your property and put it in this market to, how do you get that seller to say yes?
Well, you call people that are professionals at doing that, and sort of, you know, coming in, and they're your stylers that are going to make it look a lot more fresh than your eyes as an owner, right? Because it
Right.
feels like home to you. So stagers are amazing at it, and often have that division of their company where they will come in and wallpaper and paint and tile and do light renovations very quickly that aren't super expensive. And that goes a long, long way. Things need to be freshened up, and not just in the old days of throwing a coat of paint. We're in a different league now. And so when people do that, it is one of the most phenomenal investments I've ever seen that you can make in your home. If here's the if, and this is
Yeah,
why
it's
agents
coming.
are so important. You use the right firm and you have someone monitoring it, because there's always that case, right, where somebody new comes in, or it's like someone's kid or someone's neighbor or babysitter got that job, and they start doing it, and you're like, wait, back it up. No, we gotta undo this. So as long as you have the right talent, getting you in touch with the right company, and then monitoring the whole process, you can get to an incredible result. And that with making sure that you're in the right price range. The market sets the price, not the other way around, and really getting your sellers to understand that and not be stubborn. um, that's the finesse, and that's how you get these guys to closing. If you have someone really stubborn that's going to dictate how things are going to go, and what they're going to look like, chances are, they're going to sell for a lot less than they could, which is sad to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess they're gonna price wrong, right? They're gonna price wrong. They're thinking a different level. They're gonna miss the whole urgency. They're gonna miss that first month, and then they're gonna be chasing the market down. Holly, how do you deal with those type of situations when they price wrong, or they want to test the market, and now you need to get that price reduction? Do you have any kind of secrets to how you get that price reduction? How do you get the
You
seller to say
know,
yes to a price cut?
the main things are that's really, really difficult, because sometimes you can have a pretty abusive seller that will just really come at you. Um, I had one a year ago, and their apartment is still on the market. We had a common person, so it made it a little bit more awkward. We had a friend in common, and they really, really, really had a price in mind that they thought that theirs had to get this. And every time I kind of came to them with stats, they took it so personally. And
Mm.
they really got aggressive. So it's hard, right? When you're running around and you're super busy, like, oh, do you want to make that call again? To tell them, to email them. Gosh, do I feel like getting hit in the face right now? Not really. But I look back, because I got exhausted with them and just kind of let that go. And here they are still on the market. And I had gotten an offer $500,000 above where they are now. Um, and that
Hmm.
was maybe 14 months ago. So that must be painful because it's sitting empty. Um, but to answer your question, how do you get somebody to listen that is so defensive and attacky? I would say consistent emails with information and listening and really making those calls like twice a week. You got to put aside time and know, okay, this person, if they are, that type of personality, which is a really, 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 really challenging one, and just hear them. I hear that, you seem you set at this. It's my job to give you what's happening in the market. I'm sorry that, you feel attacked with that news. But I want to get you the most money in your pocket. And I even thought about recently, luckily for me, there's not that many of them, but I probably have a good 5 in my career. And I was like, should I print them out and show? I could go back and get the offers, right? And state them to this little
Right.
lookbook and just say, here are the 5 people in my past that were determined that they were right. I just want to show you. I don't need to be right. I just need you guys to make the most money possible. That's my goal. So
That's
Yeah.
great.
I think they know it. Sorry, John. I think they know it.
Yeah.
I think these people know it. I think they're just going from denial to acceptance. That whole step from one stage to another, I think, is tough, by the way.
it is. It's hard. And my heart goes out to them. But it's really hard to watch people make the wrong decision and put so much less money in their
Yeah.
pocket, right? If someone was at least, gaining something from a situation like, well, I guess the buyer is, right? I guess the buyer gets a good deal by somebody not listening like that. But it does happen. And consistency. And then knowing when you've just had enough, it's just draining you too much. And you're like, I'm going to sit this one out and maybe collect my lessons on the sideline because I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
Can't take it anymore.
Well, and I just want to have a clarification for some of those listeners who may be born after the year 2000. This is an actual phone call you're making, right? You're not doing this over text.
Oh,
Is that
God,
correct to
no.
say?
No,
Yeah.
and the texts are the things in between. The texts are the things in between. Hey, look what just closed. And on a phone call, that is not, you think that that's like my apartment? You think that is not like my apartment at all. And they attack. So yes,
Yeah.
it is hard for for anybody, for me after 30 years to get somebody like that. But you're not going to have a price reduction over text or emails, in my opinion. You're not going to get there. Not with a personality like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if
Really
you just
interesting.
want to email, yeah, just get off.
If you ever want to throw us to the wolves, we have a service that literally throws us through this advisor service. We'll talk to your seller. We'll take all the brunt of it. Just letting you know.
Yeah, we can be the lightning rod.
Throw us in the fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd like to-
interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to move to marketing though, Holly, because I think one of the things you mentioned is this idea of turning on the lights and connecting and letting people connect to your property. I'd like if you could just dig into that. I think it was a really interesting comment you made about. So just tell us about marketing.
Well, that's a little bit what we talked about, right? Getting your property in as good of a condition as it possibly can be. Does it smell good? Are the windows clean? Is everything like scrubbed clean? Because that really makes a difference. And, also just as an agent, are you showing up with a full tank? Have you taken on too many of these people that drain you? Do you have too many friends around you that drain you? Are you in a relationship that drains you? So your best bet and your property's best bet is when your full lights are on. You're coming in with energy and enthusiasm, right? And people are walking in, it smells good, and then you're there. Hi, so glad you guys could come. It's a real difference. I showed yesterday with someone with their energy level was on a 1, and I kept looking over at him, and it was making me laugh a little bit because I was just thinking to myself, well, not like that.
That's right. The kitchen's over there. The bathroom's over there.
Right.
Over there's the dog.
Yeah, help yourself. I love this because I love the idea of nonverbal communication, especially when it comes to marketing. And it's one of these kind of things that once you start seeing it, you start seeing it everywhere, and it sort of like broadens the context of which you're thinking about things. So I just have to ask, just as an aside, you mentioned smelling nice. Do you have like certain scents that you use for certain homes? Like does a loft
I
call for
do.
like a vanilla lavender, and like maybe a
Yeah,
pre-war
I
calls for
do.
more of a spruce?
Yeah. It's a nest. It's called bamboo.
Okay.
And then Cental, I think 60 Cental something in the winter, right? But yeah, no, I do have my go-to candles and my go-to scents
Love it.
that are there. I mean, we use them to attract each other, right? This is
Yes, of
all a
course.
very emotional and romantic thing, right? My partner, my home and my partner. My heart is where my home is. My home is where my heart is. So, yes, smell. Don't underestimate it.
No, it's great
Yeah.
because you have that one smell, it can bring you back decades. It could bring you back to your childhood instantaneously. I mean, it's really amazing. It's an amazing sense that I think a lot of folks take for granted. And I just want to say kudos, Holly, because you are one of these agents, like the tip top agent. I mean, you really are thinking multi-dimensionally, and it's really kind of cool. Like once you start digging in, like to the various factors that go into this whole process, I mean, goodness sakes, I mean, I could go for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, you talk about smell. You talk about smell, I mean, if the apartment has a bad smell, we
Oh,
don't even think about how
well,
buyers are
Yeah.
perceiving that. Just bring in the lavender to cover up that. There should be A/B tests done on this kind of thing. I'm like fascinated by the whole thing.
oh,
See what
yeah, it's not going to happen. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
The cat and the litter box or the parrot and
I
no,
I
no,
I could see
no.
I could see like the commercial, right? This lavender spruce oil will shave 45 days off the market on your listing. You know
There
what I'm
you
saying?
go.
God. Oh my God.
I love it. All right. I got to ask you, while we're in this whole vibe, energy, spiritual aura element here, Holly, this is being a New York City real estate agent, especially being, in the position that you're in, you're dealing with a lot of high stress situations. But you know what? A lot of agents are dealing with their own stresses and anxiety that comes with this job. So how do you deal with that stress and anxiety with being a New York City agent?
Okay, well, I started cold plunging, and I cannot emphasize that enough. We
Polar
hit,
bear.
yeah, almost daily, and it's a game changer. It helps with inflammation, it helps with memory, it helps with weight loss, helps with your sleep, helps with your hormone regulation. It's a game changer. So, yeah, we're big cold plungers.
How long do you do that for? How long are you sitting in the
I
cold?
mean, you can really tell how tired you are. If you get in one day and a minute feels like an eternity, it just means you're probably exhausted. But on
Mhm.
the days that you can, do 3 minutes or 5 minutes, it means, okay, I must have got a lot of REM last night. So you can kind of, balance yourself, but always you get out and you get a huge rush, and it really helps calm you for the full day. And it has so many health benefits.
Wow.
That is so interesting. So I'm very curious. Like, so is this an all year thing? I mean, would you do this in the winter
Yes.
too when it's cold outside? Wow.
Yeah.
At the gym,
So,
right? So you go to the gym for
at the
this.
gym, and then on the weekends, we keep our pool open until really like the second week in December, and then we open it in March. And my whole family uses that. I mean, we have a cold plunge, but we move that inside during those months, and then we just use the pool as like a community cold plunge. And we have
Ah,
a sauna, and which we use in the city. It's part of the building amenities. And then on the weekends, we go from the sauna to the pool to the cold plunge.
I mean, I'm gonna try it. It sounds
You
good.
got to
Me
try
too.
it, and you're gonna love
Yeah.
it. You will. You really will.
I'm
And
afraid I'm gonna love it. Then it's like I had to invest in a
yeah.
cold plunge.
Well, yeah, but like what an amazing investment. They say that saunas, now with all the toxins in our foods, that we really cannot afford not to. We're just playing Russian roulette by not getting these toxins out of our bodies. And we're big caretakers with all of these people, we're big caretakers, and we take on a lot of other people's stress, and we really
Yeah.
got to take care of ourselves. So once you start doing that, we can do our jobs a lot better.
Yeah,
Love
and
it.
speaking of doing the jobs better, so I mean, you've been at this for a while, and you really, I mean, as I've mentioned, you're at the peak of your game. It's nothing but fascinating to watch. And I'm curious because a lot of the things you're talking about are things that would not necessarily cross the mind of someone just starting in this game. I mean, the idea of talking openly to a client and basically saying, I'm done. I can't deal with you. I feel like you're attacking me, or actually having an honest conversation about
No,
price, or even discussing sort of your own situation. Like,
yeah.
some of these don't come naturally. And I'm curious, the question I have is, when you started this business, what would you have liked to know that you know now? Like, what would you tell your
Oh
younger self as you
gosh,
start?
the older I get, the more compassionate I get, right? For both myself and for other people. And for other people, when they're acting like that, they're in a lot of pain too. They're dealing with a lot of stress, and we can't see what's behind the curtain. Um, but no one that's very centered has behavior like that, right? And so just to deal with things more compassionately and know that it's not about you. We love to be the stars of all of these plays, but we really aren't. It's not about us. And just to compassionately break up with someone and be like, listen, I, I I've tried my best here, but I am failing at getting you to hear me. And I think it's best that somebody else take it from here, and maybe you'll be able to hear them. But at this point, I'm not serving you in the best way. And I'm not serving myself because I'm feeling like I'm failing you, which, like, this is just going around and around. So let's get us both into a better energy space where we can thrive.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
very
I
insightful.
I love that. I've wasted a lot of my time on the wrong clients, and you can't get that time back,
Right?
I wish I
Yeah.
had that. Yeah, I wish I had that mindset and focus and mastery. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was gonna say, though, the compassionate angle I think is also really interesting because, you're right. A lot of agents take this business very, very personally. So, you're attached to a client because you see them less as a person who's struggling with a giant decision, and more of like, all right, well, I'd like to get paid in 3 to 6 months from this person eventually. So it's always in the back of your mind, like, yeah, they're a person, but sometimes people put the paycheck ahead of the person, and I think that's a big mistake. It
Yeah.
comes back to bite you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're all, we've all done that before where it's just we don't mean to be so selfish, but it's all about us. And they hired me and they've asked me to do all these things and they want me to do open houses and they want me to spend all this money. And really, you're just talking about yourself,
Yeah.
right? And what about them? What's going on over there? And okay, they're being nasty. Yeah, but when people are being nasty, I tell my kids all day long, the abuse. And again, no one who's very like centered and happy is acting like that. So you learn what you can, you do your best, and if it's taken more than it's giving, meaning if you're not learning, um, then it's time to kind of compassionately uncouple.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Holly, this has been a nice 25 minutes or so, to have you with us here and hear your thoughts on all this stuff. I really, really, really appreciate it. And you are a rock star out there.
Yeah.
So thank you. Hopefully the audience thanks you as well. Holly Parker over at Compass. That is John Walkup. I am Noah Rosenblatt. This has been Talking Manhattan, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Noah and John.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.